So on our road to being a DevOps journeyman, we're going to have to start at the basics. We're going to have to figure out how we manage files and folders and stuff to start off with, because things get a lot more complicated down the line. But everything starts with having files in folders in a computer somewhere. So what we're going to do is, to the right of me, you can see a Windows machine, and we're just going to walk through how you might mess about with files and folders simply. But what is a file to start off with? A file is just basically some organized data that the computer can read. You usually find these using a file explorer. The file types that you might be used to are things like .txt files or .docx files for Word documents, or .png files or JPEGs for images. Some files are in binary, some files are in text. But in essence, they're just structured data that the computer can read. And it's no good having reams and reams of files if you can't organize them somehow. So folders, or directories as they're sometimes called, it's a bit like having a filing cabinet. You can easily create folders of information that have related bits of related files in them. So what does that look like? Let's go and have a look at our computer here. So this is a normal, fairly clean version of Windows. And what we've got here is, down in the bottom left here, we've got a file explorer. And here you can see a number of different folders. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the old-fashioned way of doing things. And in Windows, that's looking for your C drive. And here you can see a standard set of folders. Program files are where applications live. Users is where all of the user information, because operating systems are often multi-user, so they can have different folders for different users. Windows is where the operating system itself is. So if we go into my user on this machine, which is Dade, you can see I've got like a desktop folder and a documents folder and a downloads folder. These are all folders. Okay. And you can get to this another way. So if we keep this to the right, I'm going to, as a DevOps person, I quite often like to go onto the command line. So we're going to go into the terminal here. And you can see here that it dumps you out into the C users Dade folder, which is this here. And if I wanted to list everything in that folder, we do a dir, and that's the old way of doing things. But here you can see, if I do a dir, you can see that these folders .ssh, .virtualbox, .vs Code, they all match these graphical representations of these things. Okay. Now I want to, so dir is short for directory. On Windows and Mac, you would often type ls. ls works on this particular terminal because we've got PowerShell. We'll explain why those commands work in both. The both look like the same command. What I often do is, when I'm creating folders, I usually create a source folder. But let's navigate to the documents folder. So in the user interface, if I double click here and go documents, then we see that the folder is empty. If I want to do this on the command line, I would do a cd, change directory, and we go documents. Okay, and then if we do another dir, we can see there's nothing in there. Well, why don't we create a folder in there? And sorry, a file in there. Let's create a new text document called README. Okay, and in that file, I'm going to put, this is just a basic README. Now you'll see there, when I went new text document, then it automatically created this file here. Okay, and it was empty. And then to get into that file, I double clicked it. Now that's, the operating system here has got knows that if it's got a text document, if you double click it to open it up in a program called Notepad. So what's happened on the command line? Let's have a look here. Here you can see we've created that file, and it's called readme.txt, but it's only called readme here, and that's because in the user interface, it's hiding this three-digit acronym that's sitting at the end of the folder. You can change this setting, and I often do, by going into Options and then View, Hide Extensions for known file types. And there you can see readme.txt was there all the time. Okay, so that was how to create a file, and this is how to create a folder. That was how to create a file. So now, could we see what's in the file on the command line? Well, on Windows you can, and because it's a text file, if we do type readme.txt, it shows you the contents of the file. Now, if you wanted to load up the equivalent action of a double click on Windows, it would be start readme.txt. And then that should pop up your notepad where this is just a basic readme. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. Now, what would happen if I wanted to create some folders in here? Well, that we do the md command, and what we'll call test folder 1. So there you can see I created a test folder, and then I've got one up here as well. And I can do that again, md test folder 2. And I can create lots of folders and things, and you can see that. So what does that now look like in the command line? Let's do a dir and go back. We can see the original readme that we did and the 2 test folders. Okay, this is good. So now what do we want to do? So if we wanted to put, so we can click and drag that file into folders if we want, like that. And then readme is now in the test folder 1. So like, again, we can change directory into test folder 1. We can see that the readme is in here. Here's your folder that you're in. And these are files. Okay, so I can do, there's another command called pwd, present working directory, pwd. That shows you where you are on the folder system if you're on a command line, which is equivalent to kind of going up here and looking at, here's where my folder is. Now, if I wanted to go back up to the documents folder, there's a special shortcut where you go cd dot dot. Dot dot means the folder above. A single dot means the current folder. So you could change directory to the same folder. That's a bit rubbish because it doesn't do anything. But if you go cd dot dot, you can see that's changed me back up to the C users date documents folder. C users date, so that we're now in there. Okay, and I can check that we're going dir. Here you can see the 2 test folders. Here you can see the 2 test folders. Okay, and then you start to get into, well, all right, how do I get that? I want to move and copy files around. Now I can just do that by going in here, and I can copy and copy paste files. So cut would move it in, would move it to the location where I would want it to go. But if we look at the full tree structure, see users date documents. I don't know if I go in here now, I can click and drag that into the documents folder itself or test folder 2. Okay, so now if I go test folder 2, I can see the readme. All right, so that's how we do it in the GUI. Now, how would I get the readme from test folder 2 into my documents folder? Well, I can either move it or I can copy it. So if I do a move and I go on, the full way of doing this would be C users date test folder 2. Oops. Documents test folder 2, and we called it README. Now I could use the shortcut here of just dot, because that would say move that file into my current folder. My current folder is C users date documents, or I can put the full C users date documents. So I could do that. And there we can see README's moved back here. So I can do a move, or I can do a copy. Now, because README's in the same directory, same folder as I am, let's copy it to a different name, README2. There we go. So I've got a copy of that file, and I've got 2 versions of it now. And how about, well, I don't really want that. I want to get rid of it. So then you've got delete. And we do README2, README2. And there it goes. So there you can see me kind of generally walking around the file system